What if I told you there's a React router so powerful that an entire full-stack framework is built 90% around it? The framework is TanStack Start, and its secret weapon is TanStack Router, a routing library that eliminates runtime errors before they happen, loads your data in parallel, and makes navigation feel instant. I have been diving deep into TanStack Router, and honestly, it's solving problems I didn't even know I had with traditional routing. Today we are breaking down why this might be the route upgrade your React app needs. So what exactly is TanStack Router and why is an entire framework built around it? Here's something that blew my mind. TanStack Start, which is a full-stack React framework, is essentially 90% TanStack Router at its core. The entire framework, SSR, streaming, server function, everything revolves around this routing system. That's not a coincidence. It's because TanStack Router is fundamental to how modern React applications should work. Think of it as React Router's type-safe, performance-obsessed cousin, built by Tanner Linsley, the same person behind TanStack Query. This router is designed from the ground up with these three principles. First, end-to-end type safety. Every route path, parameter and search query is fully typed. No more typos breaking your navigation at runtime. Second, data-driven routing. Instead of fetching data inside component with useEffect, TanStack Router loads data in parallel before your components even render. It's like having a personal assistant who gets everything ready before you arrive. Third, first-class search parameters. Remember manually passing URL search params? Yeah, those days are over. TanStack Router treats search params like a powerful state manager with built-in validation. But here's what really set it apart. This isn't just another routing library. When a framework like TanStack Start builds 90% of its architecture around a single router, you know it's doing something fundamentally different. Let me show you what type safety actually means in practice. We will compare typical React router setup with the TanStack Router setup side by side. Let's start with React Router. Here I have a simple user page that navigates to that user's post. Looks fine, right? TypeScript isn't complaining. Everything compiles perfectly, but look closely. I accidentally typed user/useid/posts instead of users/useid/posts. No red squiggly lines, no warning. Let's see what happens when I click the button. And that is a runtime 4x4. The app broke live in the browser, even though TypeScript said everything was fine. This is classic type unaware routing problem. Your router doesn't actually know your route paths or parameter types. Now let's look at the same example in TanStack Router. Same logic, same navigation button, but this time the router definition and navigation are type linked. Watch what happens when I make the exact same mistake. I will remove the S and type user/useid/posts instead of users/useid/posts. Instantly, the compiler throws an error. TanStack Router knows that user/useid/posts isn't part of the route tree. It stops me before I ever hit save. Notice the difference. With TanStack Router, if you misspell the route or pass the wrong parameter types, TypeScript catches it immediately. No more debugging broken navigation in production. But it goes even deeper. With TanStack Router, even your search parameters become type safe. Here, I have added a solid schema. Page must be a number and filter is an optional string. Inside the component, useSearch automatically gives me those exact types. If I try to pass a string for page, TypeScript instantly mark it red. No build needed. And the coolest part, the URL is the state. When I change the filter or flip to the next page, the URL updates, the component re-renders, and everything stays perfectly typed. It's like Redux, but built into a URL with fully typed safety. Here's where TanStack Router really shines. Data loading. Instead of traditional waterfall pattern where components mount, then fetch data, TanStack Router loads everything in parallel. Instead of relying on useEffect to fetch after render, TanStack Router's loaders run before the components ever mounts. In this route, the loader fetches user info and post in parallel using promise all. By the time page renders, all data is ready. No spinners, no flashing UI. Compare this to traditional React Router where you would have route matches, component mounts, useEffect runs, data fetches begin, component re-render with data. With TanStack Router, route matches, data fetching start immediately, components render with data ready. The result? Navigation that feels instant, especially with the built-in caching system. This is exactly why TanStack Start could build an entire full-stack framework around this router. The data loading patterns are that robust. Let's talk about what this means for your actual development workflow. Bundle size and performance. TanStack Router supports route-level code splitting out of the box. Each route can lazy load its components, keeping your initial bundle small. Prefetching. Here's something cool. When you hover over a link component, TanStack Router automatically prefetches the routes, data, and code. By the time you click, everything already cached. Developer experience. The dev tools are incredible. You get a visual representation of your route tree, active loaders, cache data, and navigation history. It's like having an X-ray vision for your router. Error handling. Each route can define its own error boundaries and loading states. If a user's data fails to load, you can show a specific error component for that route while keeping that rest of your app functional. So when you should consider TanStack Router over React Router? You are building data-heavy applications where type safety matters. Think dashboards, admin panels, or any app where URL state drives significant UI changes. If you are already in the TypeScript ecosystem, TanStack Router is the missing piece that brings that same level of safety and auto-completion to your URLs. You will eliminate an entire class of navigation bugs before you even save the file. You need powerful search parameter management. If your app uses URL params for filtering, sorting, or complex state, TanStack Router's validation and serialization features are game-changing. Now React Router version 7 with Create Browser Router has caught up in some areas, especially data loading. But TanStack Router's type safety and search parameter handling are still unmatched. For simpler apps or if you need maximum bundle size optimization, something like Router might be better. But for complex type-safe applications, TanStack Router is the top choice. Alright, let's wrap this up. TanStack Router represents the next evolution of React routing. Type-safe, performance-focused, and developer-friendly. When a full-stack framework like TanStack Start builds 90% of architecture around a single router that tells you everything about its power and reliability. The combination of parallel data loading, end-to-end type safety, and powerful URL state management solve the real problems that traditional routes leave on the table. If you are starting a new React project or planning a router migration, TanStack Router deserves serious consideration. The learning curve is worth it for the developer experience and runtime reliability you get back. What's your biggest pain point with React routing right now? Drop in the comments. I love to hear what your experiences and whether TanStack Router might solve your specific challenges. If you found this useful, give it a like and subscribe for more modern web dev content. And thanks for watching.